Hare Krishna, a very warm welcome to all the devotees to our program on Srimad Bhagavatam study. And we are doing a detailed study of Srimad Bhagavatam in a very systematic manner, which means that starting from chapter 1 of Canto 1 of Srimad Bhagavatam from verse 1, we are doing it in a flow, verse by verse, chapter by chapter, canto by canto. And like that, in that systematic study, our journey now have reached to the chapter 9 of the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So in the previous class, we had discussed the first 8 verses of the chapter 9. And in today's class, we will continue this journey onwards by further discussing the verses starting from chapter 9, verse number 9 to verse number 25. The topic of this chapter is answer by citing Lord's version. Now, the little background behind this topic is that Parikshit Maharaj has asked a long list of questions from Shukdev Goswami, and Shukdev Goswami starts to answer those questions. And while answering those questions, he will now quote the conversation between Supreme Lord and Lord Brahma. So that conversation happened in the first kalpa of creation. And by citing that conversation, Parikshit Maharaj will receive the response to the questions that he had raised before Shukdev Goswami in chapter number 8. So overall, this is our 77th class, and the previous classes you can find on our channel Gita Online Study. And if you go to the playlist Bhagavatam English, you can find the previous videos also in case you want to hear the previous classes. So with that small introduction, we will move into the Mangalacharan part of our program, where we do the Mangalacharan. So who is doing the Mangalacharan, Rakesh ji, today?
Rakesh, sir.
Oh, Rakesh ji. Rakesh ji, please go ahead.
ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्ता राधा कान्ता नमोऽस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी श्री राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयम् उदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवत्योत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नंदगोपकुमाराय गोविंदाय नमो नमः। थैंक यू प्रभु।
Thank you, Rakesh Prabhu. Very nicely chanted. Now we go to the recap part of our program. So we will invite His Grace Radha Govind, Jivan Radha Govind Prabhu, a disciple of His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Maharaj, to kindly present the summary of the previous class to the devotees assembled. Jivan Prabhu, most welcome.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji. Am I audible, isn't it?
Yes, Prabhu, you are audible.
Okay. recap of the class number 76 held on last Sunday, 19 January. First of all, I would like to convey thanks to our Shiksha Guru Keshav Prabhuji for giving me this opportunity to make the presentation of the recap of the last class. Actually, the verses which were covered in the last class were verse number 24 to 29 of chapter 8 and also verses 1 to 8 of chapter 9. In chapter 8, verses 1 to... I will give you a small briefing of what has happened here in the previous recap. It is only just a minute. In this chapter, verses 1 to 6 speak Parishit Maharaja's inspiration to Sukadev Goswami to speak Krishna Katha, and in verses 7 to 11 cover questions by Parishit Maharaja about the Lord, the Jiva, and also about the verses 12 to 23 cover about the Kalpa, Vikalpa, Kala, Karma, and number of other topics such as universes, dimensions of the universes, inhabitants, Varnashrama Dharma, and also about yugas, duration of the Yuga Dharmas, then Sankhya philosophy, Purusha Avataras, Yoga, Mishra Bhakti, deliverance from samsara for living entities, and also the Bhakti Yoga, Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Kama, and also Lord's Leela using Yoga Maya. These topics were actually covered in the last class because just to have the context and the continuity, I am just briefly touched it. Now let us do the recap of verses which are covered in the last class. That is verses 24 to 29 of chapter 8 were covered, and also verses 1 to 8 in the chapter 9. Now let us do the recap. Verses 24 to 26. In these three verses, Parishit Maharaja inspired Sukadev Goswami to speak. First, let us take verse number 24. In this verse, he requests Sukadev Goswami to answer not only all the questions he has inquired, and also those which he might not have inquired. He submits that he is a soul surrendered unto him. This shows the sincerity and the inquisitiveness of a sincere disciple. Then verse number 25. In this verse, he says, among all sages, you are the authority having come in the parampara. This is a very brief thing. Then verse number 26, he submits that he is not affected by hunger or thirst, drinking the nectar of Krishna Katha from him, and requests him to continue his speech, his presentation. In this, in this particular stoka, we understand how he is showing his enthusiasm as a true devotee. Then verses 27, 29. This covers the concluding remarks by Suta Goswami. Verse 27. Sukadev Goswami is pleased with Parishit Maharaja's inquiries, being a sincere audience. Verse number 28. And verse number 28 says, he spoke, Sukadev Goswami spoke Srimad Bhagavatam, which was spoken by Lord to Brahma in the first Kalpa. Here I would like to add one or two things which was explained by Prabhuji in the class. Actually, in chapter 6 of Canto 2, the Purusha Sukta prayers, it is called the Purusha Sukta confirmed. And in Purusha Sukta prayers also, whatever shlokas are there in Purusha Sloka are also being reflected in the Srimad Bhagavatam in this particular chapter. So, Srimad Bhagavatam is nothing but a supplement to the Vedic literature. This I just this was pointed out by Prabhuji in the class, so I thought I would like to mention this also. verse number 29. Verse number 29, Sukadeva Goswami prepares himself to answer all that the king had inquired about. This is about the chapter number 8. We here the chapter number 8 ends and the chapter 9 commences. And in chapter 9, verses 1 to 8 were also covered. And in out of these verses 1 to 8, the first 1 to 8 cover the actually the answer of the first question by Parishit, which first question by Parishit Maharaja about the Jiva having a material body, and verses 4 to 8 cover points regarding setting the platform for Brahma and Lord's conversation. I think probably we would deal that today. Now let us go verse by verse on this chapter. Verse 1. In this verse, Lord answer to the question number 1 asked in 2.2 canto chapter 8 and verse number 7. The question was, how did the jiva who is spiritual attain material body? For this, he gives the explanation that the relationship of the jiva with the body is unreal, and it is mithya, and it has no specific meaning. It is only due to Lord's Maya. He uses also an analogy. He calls it is like a dreamer seeing his dream body. Next, let us go to verse number 2. In this verse, the real cause of the question, question 1, that was that what is the how did the diva, which is spiritual, had the material body, that is being explained. He explained that the afflicted by the Maya, the jiva appears in so many forms of living beings. Because of the influence of gunas, that is the 3 modes of material nature, the jiva thinks in terms of I and mine. That is the fundamental thing. Then verse number 3. In this verse, the solution to the misconception is explained by Sukadeva Goswami. Actually, what is the constitutional position of a living entity? Jivera Surupa Krishnasya Nitya Dasa. That is, the jiva is always a servant of the Lord. For this, once he wants, for this he should get in touch with the Lord and engage in allied devotions, devote service to the Lord, who is beyond time and Maya. Concept of this verse is also actually Prabhuji explained. This is also explained in Bhagavad Gita, also in sloka number 7.14, which says, Devi hi esha gunamayi mama maya duratya mameva ye prapatyante mayam yetam tarantite. This is the wonderful sloka explaining about the influence of Maya Shakti of the Lord. And then verses 4 to 8 is setting the platform for Brahma and Lord's conversation. Here the answer to the question for the second question number 2 is in the verse number 4, it is being given. Here the question 2 was, what is the specific difference between the bodies of the Lord and the common living entities? It is being explained like this. The Lord, actually, the meaning of the verse is the Lord presented his eternal and transcendental form before Brahma due to his, he was pleased with the deceptive performance of penance in the Bhakti Yoga. Actually, the performing the penance is coming in the subsequent slokas. Here, the word transcendental is used because Lord's body is transcendental, and if the Lord's body is transcendental and is manufactured by his own internal potency, whereas the jiva's body is material by Lord's external potency, that is the Bahiranga Shakti of the Lord, also known as the Maya of the Lord. Verse number 5. In verses 5, 6, 7, and 8, explain how Lord Brahma gets access to the Lord in verse 5. Let us take verse 5. The bewilderment of the Lord Brahma is explained in this verse. Lord Brahma, the first spiritual master, could not trace the source of his lotus seed, nor he could understand how to carry out the creation. Then verse number 6. While thus being engaged in Garbhodaka ocean, Brahma hears from nearby two syllables joined together, that is ta and pa. Ta is, that is tapa tapa, like that. Ta is described as the 16th alphabet, and pa is described as the 21st alphabet in the Sparsha alphabet. Then give Prabhupada the points from Prabhupada as a purport. Every human being is meant simply for this type of tapa and for no other purpose, because penance, by penance only one can realize the self. Self-realization, not sense gratification, is the business of a human life. By tapasya, one can get the profit of human life and not by polished civilization of animal life. I have taken this particular point because this impressed me. I just took this point from Prabhupada's purport and then I just presented. Next is the word. Actually, the word also, one word is used, upashrunot. In these verses, of course, that was also explained by Prabhuji, is very significant. It is similar to Upanayanam. Upanayanam, meaning of the Upanayanam is, Upa means bringing, and Upanayana, actually we have heard about this Upavasa. Upa means bringing near Krishna. Upa is nearby, and Upanayanam, or bringing the disciple. Actually, when the performance of Upanayana is made, the disciple is brought to the spiritual master for the path of tapa. That is for the path of following the austerities. So Brahmaji was thus initiated by Lord Krishna, and thus the fact is. And this fact is corroborated by by Brahmaji himself in the Brahma Samhita, and all the shlokas end with Govindam Adipurusham Tam Aham Bhajami. Thus the Brahma was initiated by Krishna mantra, and by Lord Krishna by himself, and thus because thus he became a Vaishnava devotee of the Lord, and he was able, even before he was able to construct the huge universe. Verse number 7. When Brahma hears the sound, he tries to find out the speaker, searching on all sides. But he is not able to find anyone besides himself. So he decides to become wise, to get to sit down on the lotus seat firmly, and gives his attention to the execution of penance as he was instructed. This verse is highly educative. Brahmaji did not allow his bewilderment to overshadow or overpower him. Out of trust, he starts executing the penance, and he has the darshan of the Lord and points from Prabhupada's purport. To achieve a success in life, I have taken all these points because some of these points are given in this purport. I just took some of the points. To achieve success in life, one should follow the example of Lord Brahma, the first living creature in the beginning of creation. Second point, Srimad Bhagavatam is coming down by disciplic succession, and in order to receive the real message of Srimad Bhagavatam, one should approach the current link, that is the spiritual master in the chain of disciplic succession. After being initiated by the proper in the chain of by the proper person in the chain of disciplic succession, one should engage in the discharge of tapasya or the execution of devotional service. Verse number 8. Lord Brahma undergoes a penance 1000 celestial years, and by the collection and by the this is by the calculation of a demigod. Also, Prabhuji explained about what is one celestial year and all in the class. He hears the transcendental vibration from the sky and he accepts it as divine. Thus, he controls his mind and senses, and the penances he executes are of a great lesson for all living entities. Thus, he is known as the greatest of ascetics. Take away points from Prabhupada's purports. There is no difference between the Lord and the side and the sound vibration coming from him, though he is not present personally. The best way of understanding is to accept such a divine instruction, and Brahma, the prime spiritual master, is the living example of this process of transcendental knowledge. Therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita or any other revealed scripture in the world is never to be accepted as an ordinary mundane sound without transcendental potency. We should definitely regard them as a really transcendental, and we should follow the instructions given there. One who has to, next point number 2, one has to receive the transcendental knowledge from the right source and accept it as a reality and prosecute their directions without hesitation. The final point, controlling the senses means engaging them in the transcendental service of the Lord. That the Lord's order descends in disciplic succession to the bona fide spiritual master, and thus the execution of the order of the spiritual master is equivalent to the factual control of the senses. And this is what I did complete the complete presentation of all the 8 verses, and I have taken much more time than Prabhuji what Prabhuji would have allotted me. And this happened so because I went through all the purpose and some of the important I just collected. I thank once again Prabhuji for giving me this opportunity to make the presentation. I thank also all the participants who have been patient enough to hear the presentation. And thank you all once again. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Okay, Hare Krishna Jivan Prabhu, thank you very much for covering the summary of the previous class. Really nice to hear from you. And let us now get on to the subject matter of class today. So, for the subject matter of class today, let us focus our attention to the screen in front of you, where we are showing you the overview map of this whole chapter number 9 of second canto. So far we have covered the first section, then the second section. Now we are going to start discussion on the third section, where Brahma's darshan of Vaikuntha. So Brahmaji, as you already know from the recap, has been doing the penances for 1000 celestial years, a very long period. And why he's doing so? Because he heard a unidentified voice while he was searching for his root of the lotus on which he was born. While he was searching for its source, he entered into the Garbhodak ocean but could not even find from where it is coming. But then he heard this voice, ta pa, ta pa. And then he thought, what is this voice? But he did not kind of doubted about the voice. Maybe it is coming from somewhere, it is some noise, etc. But he was intelligent enough to recognize what is being requested from him. Similarly, in our life also, we come across the transcendental subject matter, and many people don't pay attention to the transcendental subject matter. But some pay attention, some have been given this intelligence to understand that what is being spoken to me actually makes sense. Maybe I may not be able to understand it completely, but the points raised by these people actually make sense, and let me try it out. So something similar happened with Brahmaji. Brahmaji heard this tapa, and got on to thinking that maybe I'm being requested to do some austerity, to do some tapasya. And without doubting the source of the voice, he engaged in tapasya. And then Prabhupada mentions in the purport that actually this tapasya here being referred to as devotional service. And why we can say so? Because ultimately Brahmaji got the darshan of the Vaikuntha. Vaikuntha is the planet or the abode of the Lord. And unless and until a person is engaged in devotional service, he cannot have the darshan of the Lord or his abode. So from that we can conclude that the tapa that he performed was actually devotional service, pure devotional service. So that is what we are going to discuss in this section 9 to 18. What happened when Brahmaji saw Vaikuntha? So the description of Vaikuntha is given. A very enchanting description of Vaikuntha is given. So when we read this description of Vaikuntha, it should increase our thirst and desire to see it ourselves. And what does it mean to increase our desire to see the Vaikuntha ourselves? That means we should become more and more serious, and we should also be ready to perform tapa like Brahmaji have been doing. So, and then we will also cover the fourth section of the class of the overview map, which is being pleased, the Lord invites Brahma to ask benedictions. So, like what happens after the austerity, after the tapasya? So, the person who is successful in tapasya uh, is offered some benedictions by the person for whom he was doing the tapasya. So, like that, we will do our discussion on these two sections in the class today. What Brahmaji sees in Vaikuntha and what benediction is offered to Brahmaji when he is when the Lord appears before him. Okay, now we will need a couple of devotees to read the uh, text. Today, no Sanskrit verses will be there. We are only going to read the text. Anyone would
I
like to
will,
volunteer?
Prabhuji.
I can
I
also do,
can.
Prabhuji.
Okay, so we have
I
Vrindavaneshwari
can
Mataji.
also do, Prabhuji.
Okay, and we have Jivan Prabhu and we have Rakesh ji. Okay, so we have enough verses or enough text for your reading. So we give to Vrindavaneshwari Mataji for first reading. Yeah.
Okay. In a second, Prabhuji.
Oh,
Parikshit,
sorry. Just 1 minute.
Parikshit is, yeah.
1 minute. We are on chapter 8 right now. I did not delete the classes from the previous class. So we have from here we need to do. Yes, Mataji. Yeah.
Brahma's darshan of Vaikuntha. Lord showed Vaikuntha to Brahma. The personality of Godhead, being thus very much satisfied with the penance of Lord Brahma, was pleased to manifest his personal abode, Vaikuntha, the supreme planet above all others. This transcendental abode of the Lord is adorned by all self-realized persons freed from all kinds of miseries and fear of illusory existence.
So now, as we saw in the previous class, that Brahmaji was doing tapa, austerities, and as a result of his tapa, austerities, he got the benefit. He got the result of his tapa, and what was the result? He got to see Vaikuntha. The Lord showed Vaikuntha to Brahmaji. So, being thus very much satisfied with the penance of Lord, Brahma was pleased to manifest his personal abode, Vaikuntha, the supreme planet above all others. This transcendental abode of the Lord is adored by all self-realized persons, freed from all kind of miseries and fear of illusory existence. So this description is given that, and Prabhupada in the purport actually mentions that this tapa by Lord Brahma is actually uh, devotional service, pure devotional service. And why we are saying so? Because he got to see the Vaikuntha. That was the result of this. And that is only possible by bhakti. Now, Prabhupada further explains in the purport another point, that when we talk about austerities, in Sanskrit we call it tapasya. So what is the nature of austerities in devotional service? Can the class or can the devotees in the class give some example of austerities we perform in devotional service? What
The
are those
four
austerities?
regulative principles:
Yeah, so four regulative principles, like for example,
no
we
gambling,
no
no
gambling,
meat
no meat
eating,
eating, is
no illicit sex,
no illicit sex,
and,
and then
and no
no
intoxication.
no intoxication. So this is a kind of a penance. It is a kind of a tapasya. Why it is a tapasya? Because our mind gets attracted towards all doing all these things. So the natural tendency of a living entity in this material world is to degrade its consciousness. Like everything in this material world, if you don't maintain it, if you don't preserve it, if you don't make any effort about it, it is going to degrade. And something similar happens with consciousness also. Like we see most of the people who don't take care of their consciousness, who don't know how to take care of this consciousness, generally they end up becoming miserable. So most important, most problem or most widespread problem in this material world is with people is they don't know what to do with themselves, how to manage themselves. So specifically Indians who have this very enriched tradition of hearing Hari Katha and all that, but they don't realize its importance. So the purification effect of the Hari Katha and so on. So and what more, Mataji, we do, like this is the four regulative principles. What else do we do in bhakti? What else we do in bhakti as part of our
Harinam,
austerity?
Harinam,
Harinam. We do chanting of the holy names. And what more, Mataji? What more?
Sankirtana, Harinam, personal
Hmm.
chanting,
Hmm.
congregational chanting,
Hmm.
and association.
Association of devotees. Association
Yes,
of devotees. And then we also do Shravanam and Kirtanam. Shravanam
yes,
and Kirtanam about the Harikatha. Huh?
yes.
So is Harikatha an austerity? Is hearing
Kind of.
is hearing Harikatha an austerity? Yes, in one sense, yes. That we have to find a dedicated time period to hear these pastimes. Then we need to kind of engage our brain, our intelligence to understand the philosophical aspect of Harikatha and so on. But uh, this kind of austerity actually is very pleasing also. When we hear the pastimes of the Lord, when we hear the pastimes of Lord Krishna, Lord Ramchandra, and so on. So,
Prabhuji, can I request you to force mute? Someone is, there is a
yeah,
lot of disturbance.
yeah, I have done it. Yeah. So the point is, uh, and for example, when we do this austerity in bhakti, say for example, we offer food to the Lord, and then we are able to partake that food stuff which is vegetarian, cooked out of love and devotion. So the kind of austerities we are doing in bhakti are maybe in one sense austerities, but these austerities at times are very pleasing also. Like I gave you the example of offering food stuff. So if we are desirous of eating maybe rasgulla, that is fine, but if we offer it to the Lord, we can eat rasgulla also. Similarly, when we are about to learn about the pastimes of the Lord or the philosophy or in general, there are a lot of katha that is available, which is very entertaining. Like, for example, we hear Ramayana, we hear Mahabharata, or we hear uh, about the pastimes of Lord Krishna and so on. They are very, very sweet, very enchanting also, isn't it? So, austerities in bhakti are very relishable. Austerities in bhakti are very relishable. And for example, kirtan, we can play music, we can play mridanga, we can play harmonium, and so on. So, although these are austerities in one sense, but these austerities in bhakti that we do are sometimes very, very relishable. We don't actually sometimes feel that we are doing any austerity. Rather, they seem to be very entertaining, very enjoying, very, very delightful. And at the same time, when we do these austerities, they are very purifying. They are very purifying also. But compared to the austerities of other paths, like for example, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, and so on, So the austerities of Dhyana Yoga is something like uh, you need to leave your home, you need to leave any relationship that you have. Like if you are a husband, then you have to leave your wife, your children, your home, your family, your business, etc. So the austerities in other paths are not so easy, to perform. But austerities in bhakti, you don't have to leave your home, you don't have to leave your family, your relationship, your business, etc. Simply you need to engage your mind in shravanam and kirtanam. That is the process. So in bhakti we don't have to suppress our emotions also. In other paths you can't do maybe singing, you can't do maybe playing of musical instruments, but in bhakti you can do. So in bhakti, the way we do it, we dovetail our emotions. We don't suppress our emotions. We purify our emotions by dovetailing it towards the Lord. But in other processes, we have to suppress our emotions, which is very difficult, which is not easy, not possible for most of the people. For some people, it is possible. And the examples that we see in our Shastra is, say, for example, the Jad Bharat example we have, or maybe we have example of this Avadhut Brahmana, and like that. So we have these examples also, but that austerities in other paths are not so easy. So that is the other point that Srila Prabhupada raises in his purport, that when we talk about tapa in Bhakti Yoga, it is actually very relishable. So a tapa which is relishable as well as at the same time purifying, and the effect of this tapa is the darshan of the Lord. That is what Brahmaji is now experiencing. He is getting to see the darshan of Vaikuntha. So Uh, so these were the 2 points that were mentioned by Prabhupada in the purport. Then another point that Prabhupada brings out in the purport is that when we are talking about Vaikuntha planets or the spiritual abode of the Lord, so many people, when we provide them this description that there is a planet or there is a abode which is spiritual planet called Golok, Vrindavan or Vaikuntha, etc., they don't understand it. They don't accept it. They think it is something which is a very romanticized or very, you can say, some mythological story to please ourselves, to entertain ourselves. No. So in order to understand, for less intelligent people, the mystery of the abode of the Lord is not possible to understand, but we can understand it. We can understand it through the descriptions that are given in Bhagavad Gita. We can understand it through the descriptions given in Srimad Bhagavatam, as you are going to experience now. There are a lot of vivid details you will find in Srimad Bhagavatam about the abode of the Lord. So that is what Prabhupada, these are the main points that Prabhupada is giving in his purports. We can understand the verse like that. So that was the 9th verse, and then we go to the next one, which is the 10th verse. So Mataji, please read it.
Yes. In that personal abode of the Lord, the material modes of ignorance and passion do not prevail, nor is there any of their influence in goodness. There is no predominance of the influence of time. So, what to speak of the illusory external energy? It cannot enter that region. Without discrimination, both the demigods and the demon worship the Lord as devotees.
Now this description, so in the previous verse we understood that the Lord showed Vaikuntha to Brahmaji. Now the description of Vaikuntha is coming up, and the way Shukdev Goswami brings out the description of Vaikuntha is, first of all, telling what Vaikuntha is not, and then later on he will describe a positive description. So first of all, he starts with the negative description, what spiritual world does not look like, what is not there, what is absent there. And the way he explains it uh, uh, help us to understand it better, because he's explaining it in terms of what we experience in our material world. So in our material world we experience rajoguna, In this material world, we also experience tamoguna. In this material world, we also experience sattva guna. So he's saying that in the spiritual world, there is no tamoguna, there is no rajoguna, and there is no sattva guna even in the spiritual world. And then he talks about there is no time, there is no influence of time. There is no predominance of the influence of time. And then ultimately he says that, so what to speak of the illusory external energy? Illusory external energy means Maya Devi, or Bahiranga Shakti. So he's saying that there is no Maya. The Maya is made up of three gunas. So if three gunas are not there, Devi hi esha gunamayi mama Maya duratya. So this Maya actually is gunamayi. So all the three gunas, they combine together and present before us all the illusions, all the allurements, which we are not supposed to go towards. And that is why it is known as Maya. Maya means which is not. The something which is we are not supposed to relate with the Lord Sri Krishna, which does not take us towards Lord Krishna. Now, so that is how he is explaining. He is explaining in terms of what we experience in the material world. So there is no, first of all, he's saying there is no ignorance. There is no ignorance means there is no tamoguna. And then there is no rajoguna. Rajoguna means lusty desires. Tamoguna means there is no laziness, there is no ignorance, and so on. And there is no sattva guna also. Sattva guna means mode of goodness. So mode of goodness does not exist in purified form. In this material world also, the mode of goodness gets influenced by rajas and tamas. So that is why he's saying that there is no sattva guna also in the material, in the spiritual world. What is there in the spiritual world? In the spiritual world, there is only Shuddha Sattva. So, if you read Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary, he gives a different kind of interpretation of Rajoguna, Sattva-guna, and Tamoguna. So, he's saying that there is no Rajoguna. Then he's saying that what does it mean? If there is no Rajoguna, that means there is no creation in the spiritual world. Because creation is driven by Rajoguna. And then he's saying that there is no Tamoguna. What does it mean? There is no destruction in the spiritual world. Because who's the presiding deity of destruction in the material world? It is Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva is the presiding deity of Tamoguna. So he's saying that there is no Tamoguna in the spiritual world means there is no destruction. Similarly, he's saying there is no Sattva Guna. What does it mean? There is no need for any maintenance in the spiritual world. So like that. And then after describing this Tamoguna, Rajoguna, and Sattva Guna, he then explains, Prabhupada then explains that there is no time, there is no effect or influence of Kala. And what is the characteristics of time? What does time do?
Destruct.
Destruct, destroys. With sa kalena mahata yogo nashtaha parantapa. So in Bhagavad Gita chapter 4, Lord Krishna says that about this transcendental knowledge that he is giving to Arjuna. He is saying that I gave this knowledge to sun god Vivaswan many millions of years ago, and because of the influence of time, sa kalena mahata yogo nashtaha parantapa, this knowledge got destroyed, this knowledge got lost. So that is the function of time. And not only knowledge, our any material object also, you see, it will be destroyed because of the influence of time. Even our consciousness gets degraded if we don't maintain it, if we don't properly nourish it with Harikatha, that also get degraded. So influence of time means destruction. And how do we see that destruction? Like for example, human body takes birth, then it grows, then it sustains itself for some time in that stage, and then it starts to transform, then it starts to deteriorate, and then finally dies, annihilates. So there is no birth, there is no growth, no existence, no transformation. So because there is no time, there is no destructive effect of time, we don't see these kind of bodily changes in the inhabitants of the Vaikuntha planet. Then ultimately he says in this verse, there is no illusory external energy, which means there is no Maya. There is no Maya. Maya means there will be a lot of Maya means uh, the way we should look at it, but we look at it differently. For example, we should look at this material world as the uh, uh, energy of the Lord, and we should look at this material world that the Lord is the proprietor of this material world, like Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam. But because of Maya, we see it differently. We see that this material world is for my enjoyment. So Maya means, like for example, there is a rope, but we look at the rope as a snake. So although it is a rope, but we tend to think that it is snake. That is Maya. That is the illusory effect of Maya. Similarly, this material world belongs to the Supreme Lord. He is the proprietor of this material world. But because of Maya, we think that we are the proprietor of this material world. We are actually supposed to enjoy this material world. So that is Maya. So, and then what else can we understand about the Vaikuntha planet? We understand from Vaikuntha planet uh, that if there are no modes of material nature in the Vaikuntha planet or in Vaikuntha, what are the devotees or what are the inhabitants of Vaikuntha planet are supposed to be like in terms of consciousness? They are purified souls, and Bhagavad Gita describes these purified souls as Brahma Bhuta Prasanna Atma Na Shochati Na Kankshati. So one who has overcome the effect of modes of nature, like he's overcome about Sattva Guna, Rajoguna, and Tamoguna. What does he call in technically in Bhagavad Gita language? Brahma Bhuta Prasanna Atma. He is actually Brahma Bhuta. Brahma Bhuta means purely spiritual now. Like another analogy that is given by Prabhupada in his purport says, not in this purport, but purport elsewhere. If you know this coconut, so a wet coconut, have you seen Vrindavaneshwari Mataji? Have you seen the wet coconut?
वेट कोकोनट मतलब वो जिसके अंदर पानी होता है.
Yes, wet coconut which has water.
Yes.
So if you see that wet coconut, the fruit of coconut is tightly attached to the hard
Yes.
portion of the coconut.
Yes,
Isn't it?
the kernel.
The covering, the shell.
Yes. Yes.
But when you see the dried coconut, have you seen the dried coconut? And if you hold that coconut in your hand and you kind of shake it, you
Yes.
find that the fruit part in that dried coconut actually has separated from the shell of the coconut.
Yes.
That is why it makes a duck 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 sound, right?
Yes. Yes.
Now this wet coconut is actually can be compared to the conditioned soul, where the soul is related to the body,
Totally attached. Okay.
attached to the body.
Yes.
Attached to the body, not in terms of like physical sense, but maybe in terms of the consciousness is attached to the body.
Yes.
But then if you see the dried coconut, the consciousness is not attached to the body.
Yes.
That person, that soul, that Jivatma actually has overcome the effects of the modes. And that is why the bodily pains and all these things are not uh, felt by the person who has liberated from
Yes.
itself from the body. So that is what is called as Brahma Bhuta, liberated soul. He has overcome the effects of Tamoguna, Rajoguna, and Sattva like that. So that is called as Brahma Bhuta. And the inhabitants of Vaikuntha planet are Brahma Bhuta Prasanna Atma.
Okay.
They are all Brahma Bhutas. They are all Brahma Bhutas like that. So, and what is the quality of Brahma Bhutas? What is the consciousness of Brahma Bhutas? They all act for the pleasure of the Lord.
Yes.
There is no competition for any leadership. They completely unanimously accept their Lord as their leader, as their guide, and there is no competition for leadership in the spiritual world. So that is the description of Brahma Bhuta as given in the shloka, and that is how Srila Prabhupada, by way of his purport, has explained it in his purport. All these points. What is the effect of the modes? What does it mean in terms of time? Now, one important point regarding time is, then in the Vaikuntha planets also there is morning, there is afternoon, there is night and all that. But the destructive potency of time is not there. Destructive potency of time is not there. People are all youthful, they don't grow old, they don't die, like that. They are always happy, they are always engaged in the service of the Lord, like that. So that is the some description of Vaikuntha given in terms of what we see, what we observe in this material world. So I hope that we can relate to it.
Yes.
Okay. Now, this is what I have picked up from the purport that was given by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And this is something which is coming from Padma Puran. There are a series of verses given in Padma Puran that describes the spiritual world, the Vaikuntha planet.
Yes.
Please read. Please read.
Yes. Here about the form of spiritual world. Between the material realm
Yes, continue.
I'm sorry, Prabhuji, I went on mute. Between the material realm and the spiritual sky, the splendid river called Viraja flows with water produced from the perspiration of the Vedas. Beyond the river lies the place called Tripada. This supreme abode is eternally sweet, young, eternally blissful. This abode of the Lord is Shuddha Sattva, full of pastimes and without decay. It is all the Vedas without contamination and never subject to destruction. It is beyond measure, without old age, truth, and devoid of stages of material consciousness, waking, sleeping, and deep sleep. There the sun, the moon, the fire do not shine. Having gone to the supreme abode of the Lord, one does not return. This abode of the Lord is filled with many inhabitants.
So like this, you see a very enchanting description is given. So there is a river which bifurcates, which divides between the material realm and the spiritual sky. So there is a material realm, and then there is a river called Virja, and then there is called the spiritual sky. The spiritual abode starts with Brahma Jyoti, and then beyond the river lies the place called Tripad. So spiritual world is also known as Tripad. Why Tripad? Tripad means one pad actually means 25%. Tripad means 3 times 25% means 3/4, 75%. So among the whole of the creation, which includes the spiritual as well as the material, the spiritual acquires 75%, Tripad. So this abode is eternally sweet, young, eternally blissful. All this description is given. Why? Because there are no effect of modes. This abode of the Lord is Shuddha Sattva, full of pastimes and without decay. Without decay means there is no influence of time. It is all the Vedas without contamination and is never subject to destruction. Again, the effect of time is being mentioned here. There is no effect of Kala. It is beyond measure, without old age. There is no old age. It is always truth and devoid of stages of material consciousness. There is no waking, sleeping, deep sleep. There is no tamoguna. Probably that is what they are trying to say. There the sun and the moon, the fire do not shine because everything is self-effulgent. Everything is self-effulgent. So do not shine. Having gone to the supreme abode of the Lord, one does not return. Like that, a very enchanting description of spiritual world given in Padma Puran, and very closely, or I would say exactly matching with what we just now read in
Bhagavad
Srimad
Gita.
Bhagavatam.
Even in Bhagavad Gita,
Yeah,
15th chapter,
even in Bhagavad
na
Gita, having
prabhasate suryo, na
ha,
shashanko,
oh
na
na
pava.
pavakaha. No, yes, madam. Yes, Mataji. Yeah. Okay, now we go to the next one, 11th one.
Inhabitants of Vaikuntha. The inhabitants of Vaikuntha planets are described as having a glowing sky bluish complexion. Their eyes resemble lotus flowers and their dress is of yellowish color. Their bodily features very attractive. They are just the age of growing youths. They all have 4 hands. They are all nicely decorated with pearl necklaces and ornamental medallions, and they all appear to be effulgent.
Hmm. Hmm. Now you see the more description is coming. Now, how do we relate between this verse and the previous verse? In the previous verse, what did we study? There are no modes. No sattva-guna, no rajoguna, no tamoguna. Now, somebody who read that kind of description about Vaikuntha planet might think that in this material world, whatever variety we see is actually because of the modes. So this material world actually is made up of modes mixed together. So for example, we see this nature, it is made up of modes. Sattva, Rajas, Tamas combining together in different proportions is creating something and getting an effect. We get an effect of all these things on our consciousness when we see the material world around. So we see different objects, which is a combination of various mixture of various material modes, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. Now, in the previous verse, we learned that there are no modes in Vaikuntha. So somebody might doubt that if there are no modes in Vaikuntha, so is there any variety available in Vaikuntha? Because variety in this material world is mainly because of the modes. So if there are no modes in Vaikuntha, is there any variety there? So this verse answers that. Yes, there is a lot of variety. Like the variety we see in the material world, there are variety in Vaikuntha planets also, because actually this material world is a reflection of Vaikuntha planet only. So we have variety. So what kind of variety we have? It is given here. The inhabitants of Vaikuntha planets are described as having a glowing sky bluish complexion. Their eyes resemble lotus flowers. Their dress is of yellowish color. Their bodily features youths. There is no something like old age in the Vaikuntha planets. Then they are all have four hands. So very different from what we see in the material world. In the material world, we have two hands, but in the Vaikuntha planets, all the inhabitants are supposed to have four hands. They are all nicely decorated with pearl necklaces, with ornamental medallions, and they all appear to be effulgent. So in the material world, we are not effulgent. But in the Vaikuntha planets, it is mentioned that they are very effulgent. So like this, we can understand the differences between the Vaikuntha planet as well as the material world. Okay, 12th.
Some of them are effulgent like corals and diamonds in complexion and have garlands on their heads, blooming like lotus flowers, and some wear earrings.
So some of them are effulgent like coral and diamonds. So continuing from the previous verse, it was mentioned that they are very effulgent. So here they are kind of further elaborating on how they are effulgent. So it is saying that effulgent like coral and diamonds in complexion and have garlands on their heads, blooming like lotus flowers, and some wear earrings. So that is a description further given. And Prabhupada in the purport mentions that the description we see in these verses is something very similar to like Sarupya liberation inhabitants. Sarupya means the inhabitants of Vaikuntha are having the same appearance like the Lord himself. So it appears that the kind of description given here for the inhabitants is of those inhabitants which have achieved Sarupya Mukti. Sarupya Mukti. Like that, Prabhupada kind of elaborates on this purport. So we now go to the next one. Mataji, please read.
Yes. The Vaikuntha planets are also surrounded by various airplanes, all glowing and brilliantly situated. These airplanes belong to the great Mahatmas or devotees of the Lord. The ladies are as beautiful as lightning because of their celestial complexions, and all these combined together appear just like the sky decorated with both clouds and lightning.
So isn't it very enchanting? There are planes uh, going around in the Vaikuntha planets, and You are accompanied by very great Mahatmas and very beautiful ladies are riding these kind of planes and so on. And so Prabhupada write in the purport that these planes in the Vaikuntha planets are not driven by machines. They are not machine driven planes like we see in this material world. So everything in Vaikuntha is Brahma. Brahma means spiritual. There is no matter there, like the matter we see here, earth, fire, air, water, ether. There is no matter. Everything is Brahma. So planes are also of the same quality as Brahman, but everything is Brahman in the spiritual world. But that everything is Brahman does not mean that there is no variety. There is some kind of monotonous Brahman. No, it is not monotonous. It is full of variety, and you see the examples of variety. There are planes, and the devotees of the Lord are riding that plane accompanied by beautiful ladies, which probably are also riding that plane, glorifying the Lord together. And uh, they appear just like the sky decorated with both clouds and lightning. So some analogy is given here to compare this, uh, the Vaikuntha planet, inhabitants of Vaikuntha planet. Okay, now we go to the next one, 14th one,
Yeah.
which talks about Lakshmi Devi. Yeah.
The goddess of fortune, in her transcendental form, is engaged in the loving service of the Lord's lotus feet, and being moved by the black bees, followers of spring, she is not only engaged in variegated pleasure service of the Lord, also with her constant companions, but is also engaged in singing the glories of the Lord's activities.
So here now, after describing the inhabitants, now it is zooming in. The description is zooming in. So the description is now talking about Lakshmi Devi's role in the Vaikuntha planet, where she is serving the lotus feet of the Lord. And not only while engaging in service, she is actually singing also. She is glorifying the Lord by constant singing. And there is a lot of variety around her. There are black bees, followers of spring. There is a spring season like environment there. And like that, she's singing and she's serving the lotus feet of the Lord. Like that, the role of Lakshmi Devi is mentioned in the description here. Okay, we go to the 15th verse. So now we will invite Jivan Prabhu for reading the 15th verse. Yeah, Jivan Prabhu. Hmm. Are you able to hear me, Jivan Prabhu? Please unmute in case you are not in case you are muted. Hare Krishna, Jivan Prabhu. Can you hear? Maybe Vrindavaneshwari Mata, you can continue for the time being. By the time Jivan Prabhu comes back, or
Yes.
we can hear him. Yeah.
Lord Brahma saw in the Vaikuntha planet the personality of Godhead, who's the Lord of entire devotee community, the Lord of the goddess of fortune, the Lord of all sacrifices, and the Lord of the universe, and who is served by the four most servitors like Nanda, Sunanda, Pralamba, and Arhana, this his immediate associates.
This is Prabala. Prabala.
Prabala, not
Okay.
Pralamba.
Now the Brahmaji have the darshan of the Lord. So first of all, he described, Sukdev Goswami described what the material, what the Vaikuntha planet is not like. Then he describes some variety there. Then he describes about Lakshmi ji, and after describing Lakshmi ji, he describing the Lord. He is now having the darshan of the Lord. Uh, and while describing the, while giving the darshan of the, having the darshan of the Lord, what Brahmaji sees is that Lord is surrounded by his immediate associates. And some of the names given here is Nanda, Sunanda, Prabala, Arhana. They are the immediate associates of the Lord. And all of them are engaged in the loving transcendental service to the Lord. That is some more further description when Brahmaji sees the Lord. And now in the 16th verse, the description further continues. Now it goes to describing the beauty of the Lord. Yes, Mataji, please read. Let me check once, 1 minute. Jivan Prabhu, are you able to hear us? Hear us? Okay, Mataji, please continue. Yeah.
The personality of Godhead, seen leaning favorably towards his loving servitors, his very sight intoxicating and attractive, appeared to be very much satisfied. He has a smiling face, decorated with an enchanting reddish hue. He was dressed in yellow robes and wore earrings and a helmet on his head. He had 4 hands, and his chest was marked with the lines of goddess of fortune.
So this is the beauty of the Lord being described here. A very smiling face, decorated with an enchanting reddish hue. So like sometimes we see a beautiful lady or sometimes a beautiful person having some reddish hue on the face. So that's how being described here. He was dressed in a yellow robes, wore earrings and a mukut, helmet on his head, had 4 hands, chaturbhuj, chest was marked with the lines of goddess of fortune. So like this, a very enchanting description of Vaikuntha planet is given. Okay, we move further.
The Lord was seated on his throne and was surrounded by different energies, like the 4, the 16, the 5, and the 6 natural opulences, along with other insignificant energies of temporary character. But he was the factual Supreme Lord, enjoying his own abode.
Hmm. Now, what Brahmaji saw was that Lord was being served by Lakshmi Devi. His description is given, and then he is also surrounded by his energies, his shaktis. Hmm. So, what are the shaktis? So, a specific name is not given, but hint is given: the 4, the 16, the 5, the 6 natural opulences, along with other insignificant energies of the temporary character, like that. So in the purport, we can understand Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur mentions what does the 4 means, what does the 16 means, with the 5, the 6 natural opulences, what does it mean? So the 4 energies of the Lord is defined as the Prakriti, Purusha, Mahat Tattva, and Ahankar. The 16 are defined as the 5 elements: Jal, Agni, Prithvi, Vayu, Akash. The 10 sense organs means the 5 karmendriyas and the 5 jnanendriyas. So 10 plus 5, 15, and the mind is the 16th one. So that is how the 16th. Then the 5 means the tanmatras means uh, the
Roop,
form,
Ras,
that
Gandha,
roop, ras, gandha, shabda, and like
Sparsh.
form, taste, smell, sound, and touch means sparsha. And then the 6 natural opulences means uh, like the beauty,
Aishwarya,
Ashwarya, Bala, Kirti, Jnana,
renunciation,
and then Shri means Lakshmi, which means wealth, and Vairagya means renunciation. So beauty, strength, fame, knowledge, wealth, and renunciation. And insignificant energies means like Ashtasiddhis, Laghima, Mahima, like that. And no one is equal and more powerful than the Lord. So it is the last line says, but he was the factual Supreme Lord, enjoying his own abode. So that is the Supreme Lord enjoying his own abode. Like that, the description of the energies of the Lord is also given here. So we go to the 18th one, the ecstasy part. Yeah. Hmm.
Lord Brahma, thus seeing the personality of Godhead in his fullness, was overwhelmed with joy within his heart, and thus, in full transcendental love and ecstasy, his eyes filled with tears of love. He thus bowed down before the Lord. This is the way of the highest perfection for a living being, Paramhansa.
Hmm. Now here you see what happens when the sadhaka achieves the ultimate result of his sadhana. And what are we all aspiring for? What does in our Bhakti Samrat Sindhu classes in Hindi that we are doing on Wednesdays, what do we do? What do we understand about the type of bhakti that we do? The type of bhakti that we do is Vaidhi Sadhan Bhakti. Vaidhi Sadhan Bhakti means we try to uh, follow the rules and regulations of the scriptures, follow the rules and regulations of the uh, our spiritual master, our guru, and we are trying to do the bhakti, or we are trying to practice according to those rules. And what is the objective of Vaidhi Sadhan Bhakti? In the definition that we read of Vaidhi Sadhan Bhakti, the objective of Vaidhi Sadhan Bhakti is to awaken the bhava, the love of the Lord, awaken the bhava in our heart. So when this bhava is awakened, that is actually, when the bhava is awakened in our heart, that is actually the true bhakti that we experience. Right now, whatever we are practice, whatever we are doing is not the bhakti, but it is the kind of an acting of bhakti. We are acting like a bhakta, acting like a bhakta to become like a bhakta. That is what we are doing. And when we become bhakta, that is actually called as bhava bhakti. Bhava bhakti means when the bhava, first of all, uh, appears in our heart. So Brahmaji has already achieved that platform. And when he has achieved that platform, he is now having the darshan of the Lord. He is feeling the symptoms of that bhava. So he's saying that overwhelmed with joy within his heart, and in full transcendental love and ecstasy, his eyes filled with tear of love. He thus bowed down before the Lord. Like that, we read this description. This is something like at the stage of bhava or prema, when we see the symptoms of ashtasattvic vikar. Ashtasattvic vikar means all these bodily symptoms. Where our voice starts trembling, our eyes are shedding tears, our mm, we are sometimes getting fainted, our hair are standing on end on our bodies, like that. So these are called some symptoms of transcendental love, because the bhakti or the antaranga shakti, the internal potency of the Lord, has now done the magic in our heart, and we are able to have the darshan of the Lord face to face. So that is what Brahmaji is experiencing right now.
Yes.
And Prabhupadaji's purport, if you read, Prabhupada is saying that the book Srimad Bhagavatam is for Paramhamsas. Paramhamsas. And what is the path of the Paramhamsa? What is the path of Paramhamsa? What does Paramhamsa means? Paramhamsa means one who does not have any envy towards others. Parama nirmatsaranam satam. Like in the initial first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, we understood what is this Bhagavatam is. Subject matter of Bhagavatam is meant for whom? It is meant for Paramhamsas. So, but what is the path of Paramhamsa? What path does these Paramhamsa takes? And if we take the same path of Paramhamsas, we are also going to experience the same thing. It is not a joke. It is something what Prabhupada is saying, that it can happen to us also, that we can see the Lord face to face. If we do the bhakti part, if we follow the path of the Paramhamsa in a very sincere, in a very dedicated manner, in a manner like doing a tapasya, we studied in the previous class also, that human form of life is actually meant for tapasya. If we do it in that spirit, we are also supposed to have the same experience like Brahmaji is having. And what is the path of Paramahamsa? Prabhupada mentions the same process to be followed. Believe in Supreme Personality of Godhead. First of all, we need to have a staunch Shraddha on Lord Sri Krishna. Yes, I believe in Lord Sri Krishna. I understand that His existence. I understand that He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, residing in Golok, Vrindavan. The same Lord also resides in my heart. Like that, we need to have believe in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then with this Shraddha, we need to hear about Him from literatures like Srimad Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. That we are already doing. We are already hearing from Srimad Bhagavatam. And then from whom we should hear? We should hear from that person who has that love for the Lord in his heart. So we need to hear this Srimad Bhagavatam from a Bhagavata only. Bhagavata means the pure devotee of the Lord, or at least he has the pure intentions in his life. And not from a professional reciter of Bhagavatam, or from a karmi, or from a jnani, or from a yogi. No, we need to hear from the devotee of the Lord who has these soft devotional feelings for the Lord in his heart. And then there is no need for any renunciation. There is no need for leaving your family. There is no need for leaving your profession, your position, whatever position you are in, whatever situation you are in. You need to be in that situation and simply hear about the Lord. And then, if you do it so, the unconquerable Lord, who is known as Ajita. Ajita means who cannot be conquered. The unconquerable Lord, who is known as Ajita, can be conquered by this Paramhamsa path. So that is the purport Srila Prabhupada gives. He is kind of encouraging us, he is kind of inspiring us to be on the path like Lord Brahma. He did tapa, and by his tapa he got to see the Lord in the Vaikuntha planet. Similarly, if we follow the same path as Lord Brahma, the path of Paramhamsas, we can also see the Lord one day face to face. And the kind of description Lord Srila Prabhupada gives in the purport actually comes from this verse of chapter 14 of the 10th canto. So the verse goes like this: Jnane prayasam udapasya namanta eva jivanti sanmukharitam bhavadiya vartam sthane sthitha shrutigatam tanuvan manobhir ye prayaso jita jito api yasi trilokyam, like that. So Mataji, please read the purport here.
Yes. Lord Brahma said, O my Lord Krishna, a devotee who abandons the path of empiric philosophical speculation aimed at merging in the existence of the Supreme and engages himself in hearing your glories and activities from a bona fide sadhu or saint, and who lives an honest life in the occupational engagement of his social life, can conquer your sympathy and mercy even though you are Ajita or unconquerable.
So ye prayasho jita ajito, jita ajito, ajita jito. Ajita means one who is unconquerable, and one can, by doing this prayas, can jita, can conquer him. And then sthane sthitaha. Sthane sthitha means be at that position where you are already. No need to change your position. You are a housewife, be a housewife. You are a professional doctor, engineer, chartered accountant, be a professional doctor, chartered accountant, engineer. You are a prime minister, you are a chief minister, you are a member of parliament, you remain that. But what do you do? Shrutigatam tanuvan manobhir. Shruti gatam means hearing your glories from tanuvan manobhir, by your all your mansa vacha karmana tanuvan manobhir. And then if you do it like this, then you can become you can conquer the unconquerable. That is what Brahmaji is trying to say here in this verse. Okay, we go to the 19th one. Mataji, please read.
Lord is pleased with Brahma, and seeing Brahma present before him, the Lord accepted him as worthy to create living beings, to be controlled as he desired, and thus being much satisfied with him, the Lord shook hands with Brahma and slightly smiling addressed him thus.
Hmm. So the Lord gave him darshan. Brahmaji got the darshan of the Lord. Brahmaji became very overwhelmed with devotional emotions. And then after that, the reaction of the Lord is mentioned here. Lord is very pleased with Brahma. He did the austerity. Similarly, the Lord is very pleased with that person who does devotional service in a very nice way. So, and then he says, and there is a description given about this all about this verse by Srila Jiva Goswami, that it is not that Brahmaji did this tapasya mainly for getting the powers for doing the creation of the material world. No. Jiva Goswami said that Lord Brahma did tapasya mainly to get the power of creation so that he can please the Supreme Lord. So he want to get the power of creation so that he can please the Supreme Lord, and that is why the Lord became very pleased by Brahma. So Lord Brahma's tapa was not simply to become powerful with the ability to create. He wanted the ability to create mainly because the Lord will become pleased if he do that service. So that is why he did that tapasya. So that is what being mentioned here, that how or why the Lord became very pleased with Brahma. And then it is mentioned here, the Lord shook hands with Brahma. The Lord shook hands with Brahma. The Lord shook hands with Brahma. What does it mean? It does not mean like we say that like we see on television, or sometimes we also shake hands with someone. That is something at the equal platform when we shake hands. It is not like that. Say, for example, if we are having our spiritual master in front of him, so we don't shake hands with our spiritual master. We bow down to his lotus feet. So sometimes when we read the description that the Lord shook hands with Brahma, so it might appear it might appear that Brahmaji and the Lord are at the equal platform. No, it is not like that. Actually, what is happening here is Lord is so pleased with Brahma that he is holding the hands of Lord Brahma out of love. So that is what it means. Lord shook hands with Brahma and slightly smiling addressed him like this. So uh, that is what being mentioned here. And so Prabhupada ji also give a different explanation in his purport. What he says is, so Lord Brahma is not only the creator of the universe, but Lord Brahma is also the head of a sampradaya. Like we say, Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. Because the Lord Brahma is also the head of the sampradaya, he has another role to play in this universe. What is that role? That role is mainly to reclaim the Nitya Baddha Jivas back to Godhead. And how? So Prabhupada is trying to hint that by heading this Sampradaya, Brahma Sampradaya, Lord Brahma is also responsible for preaching the glories of the Lord to the conditioned soul of this universe, conditioned soul of this material world. And uh, so whoever actually takes the role of preaching and glorifying the activities of the Lord to the conditioned soul of this world also become very dear to the Lord. So here we understand that Brahmaji became very dear to the Lord because he wanted to please the Lord by doing the creation, the work of creation. But similarly, Brahmaji has another role, which is to preach about the glories of the Lord, because he is heading the Sampradaya, Brahma Sampradaya. So similarly, people who are in this Sampradaya, like we are also in Brahma Sampradaya, Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. So people who are in this Sampradaya, if they are preaching the glories of the Lord to others, also become very dear to the Lord. And if they become very dear to the Lord, so Prabhupada is writing that the Lord also one day will shake hands with them. What does it mean? The Lord will also hold the hand of these kind of people who are engaged in the activity of preaching the glories of the Lord, and will become very dear to them. So shaking hands is not to be taken in the material sense, but the Lord is shaking hands with Lord Brahma out of love, like a parent hold the hand of the children and pick him up, and like that. So in that sense, we need to understand this. Okay, we go to the 20th one. Again, we go to the Vrindavaneshwari Mataji. Please read this.
Yes. The beautiful personality of Godhead addressed Lord Brahma. O Brahma, impregnated with the Vedas, I am very much pleased with your long accumulated penance, with the desire for creation. Hardly am I pleased with the pseudo mystics.
So here, Lord says that I am very pleased with your penance, but I am not pleased with the penance of the pseudo mystics. So what does it mean? So Prabhupada explains in the purport that penance could be of two types. One type of penance is something which we do in our spiritual, for the purpose of spiritual enlightenment, for the purpose of spiritual upliftment, elevation, like that. And that is something which we can call as bhakti yoga, or maybe any other yoga. That is the spiritual penance. But there is another penance which people do for sense gratification. So that is the penance of the pseudo mystics. So they do this penance mainly to derive some material benefit. And Prabhupada gives an example from modern life. Like for example, the scientists do all these hard work mainly to discover nuclear weapons. And what are they achieving out of it? Nothing. It is already a Martya Lok where death is inevitable. And by discovering these nuclear weapons, what they are trying to do, they are trying to fasten up the process of death. What are they going to achieve with that? Nothing. So that is the distinction between the penances of the pseudo mystics, which is for sense gratification, which is for main self-aggrandizement, or maybe for some material advancement. So that kind of penance is not good. So the penance mainly for self-realization is actually the right penance, and one should engage in that kind of austerity, in that kind of tapasya, and that is what being discussed here. That why Lord was pleased with Brahma, because he did the right kind of penance. Okay, now we go to Rakesh ji. Rakesh ji, please read from this 21st verse. Hmm.
Ultimate benediction. I wish you good luck, O Brahma. You may ask from me, the giver of all benediction, all that you may desire. You may know that the ultimate benediction, as the result of all penances, is to see me by realization.
So now Lord is very pleased, and when the Lord is pleased, he's asking, ask, what do you want? Please, whatever you desire, please ask. And then further he adds this line, you may know that the ultimate benediction as a result of your penance is to see me by realization. So the ultimate benefit of any tapasya, as mentioned in this verse, is to see the Lord. So the ultimate realization of the supreme truth is knowing and seeing face to face the personality of Godhead. Here, if you read Prabhupada's purport, Prabhupada is trying to say that the ultimate realization or the ultimate result or the benefit of any tapasya, any spiritual process, is to have the darshan of the Lord face to face, have a look at his form, have Lakshmi Devi sitting next to the Lord, having seen his energy, having seen his associates, all that. That is the ultimate realization. And many spiritualists say that this is not the ultimate realization. What do they say? Ultimate realization is impersonal Brahman or localized Paramatma. No, that is not the ultimate realization. Ultimate realization is seeing the Lord face to face. That is the ultimate realization, and that is confirmed by the Lord himself via Shukdev Goswami in Srimad Bhagavatam. So Shukdev Goswami is quoting the narration conversation between Brahmaji and the Supreme Lord, and Lord himself is saying that the ultimate benediction as a result of all penance is to see me by realization. So it is very clear. Okay, we go to the 22nd verse. Go to, yes, Prabhu, please read.
The highest perfectional ingenuity is the personal perception of my abodes, and this has been possible because of your submissive attitude in the performance of severe penance according to my order.
So here it is clear that he heard that tapa, and he did not question it. He started engaging his senses, his mind, all in that tapa, and ultimately he was successful, and the Lord was very pleased. And here he's getting the feedback from the Lord that you did the right thing, my dear Brahma, and because of that submissive attitude and not the challenging attitude, because of your submissive attitude in the performance of your severe penance according to my order, you are able to see me. So here again we see in Bhagavad Gita also Lord Krishna says manmana bhav mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. So in that verse he's saying that if you always engage your mind in me, you always worship me, then I guarantee you will come back to me. So something similar Brahmaji is doing. He's engaging his faculties, his mind, his senses into the penances, tapasya of the Lord, and then ultimately he's going back to the Lord, going back to Godhead, like that. So by doing all this devotional process, ultimately one day we also, sincere practitioner of Bhakti Yoga, can achieve the same result. Okay, 23rd.
Mystery resolved. O sinless Brahma, you may know from me that it was I who first ordered you to undergo penance when you were perplexed in your duty. Such penance is my heart and soul, and therefore penance and I are non-different.
So as I was mentioning to you in the beginning of the class, what tapasya here means is actually devotional service. And how do we confirm that? I will repeat, because the result that Brahmaji got was of the pure devotional service. He got to have the darshan of the Lord, he got to see the abode of the Lord, like that. So Brahmaji wanted that power of creation not for his own self empowerment, but he wanted to do it because he wanted to please the Lord. So, one who is ready to do anything at any cost to please the Lord, that is the motto of the devotees, actually uh, can uh, can achieve that highest perfection, which is the darshan of the Lord. So, for such a surrender requires a very high level of purity, and Brahmaji had that kind of purity, and that what pleased the Lord very much. So, like that. Okay, we go to the 24th one, the second last verse of the class today. Yeah.
Penance. I create this cosmos by such penance. I maintain it by the same energy, and I withdraw it all by the same energy. Therefore, the potency is penance only.
Hmm. So, Prabhupada ji in the purport mentions that even for material success, we need to do tapasya. Like to become a greatest cricketer, greatest footballer, greatest scientist, people have to undergo so much tapasya. Hmm. So, why not then penance for going back to Godhead? Hmm. It must be done with lot of focus. If we are really serious about going back to Godhead, having spiritually realized and achieving all that success, it should be done with lot of determination, courage, sincerity, and so on. So, uh, uh, Prabhupada ji mentions that easygoing life and attainment of perfection in transcendental realization cannot go together. So, if we are thinking that we can live a easy life without any tapasya, hmm, and still can make spiritual progress, then he's saying that you are probably a big fool. It is not going to happen. And how do we know what penance we must undergo? We should check with our spiritual master. Sometimes spiritual master also gives specific service to a devotee. And one must make these instructions of spiritual master, instructions of the scriptures, the Supreme Lord, one's life's heart and soul. So that is the power of penance. That is what the Lord is glorifying the tapasya, the mode of tapasya here. Okay, the last verse for today. Please read, Prabhu.
Brahma's glorification. Lord Brahma said, O personality of Godhead, you are situated in every living entity's heart as the supreme director, and therefore you are aware of all endeavors by your superior intelligence without any hindrance whatsoever.
So the Lord gave this benediction to Brahma. Please ask whatever is your desire. So Brahmaji is responding. He's glorifying the Lord first of all. He's saying that you are situated in everyone's heart. You are the Paramatma. You know everyone's heart. You know everyone's intelligence. So, so you are aware of all endeavors by your superior intelligence without any hindrance or whatsoever. So his Brahmaji is glorifying the Lord. He's saying that you already know my heart. And then from 26th verse onwards, Brahmaji, because Lord has requested Brahmaji to ask for benediction, Brahmaji asked this benediction in the form of questions. So he will present some four questions to the Lord, and then the response of those four questions will become the basis of Chatushloki Bhagavatam. So in the next class, we are going to discuss these four questions that the Brahmaji will ask, and we will elaborately discuss the Chatushloki Bhagavatam. So the next class is going to be very, very important. All based upon the Chatushloki Bhagavatam, because Chatushloki Bhagavatam means the four principal verses of Bhagavatam, which actually conveys the message of Bhagavatam in nutshell. Though this is a yuga of instant noodles, short and sweet. So maybe that may appeal to you that if we understand these four slokas of Bhagavatam, probably we don't need to read the whole Bhagavatam, which I don't recommend. I still request you to continue to come to these classes, because if you continue to come, that also motivates me to speak Bhagavatam. But still, we will like to read Chatushloki Bhagavatam with all sincerity, so that we really dive deep into the message of Bhagavatam. And this Chatushloki Bhagavatam is spoken by the Lord Himself, with Lord Himself. So very important verses. So with that, I will conclude the class here. And Services for next class, Mangalacharan by Jivan Prabhu, summary by Rakesh ji. With all glories to Srimad Bhagavatam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada ji, all glories to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Any takeaways, comments, question, we can discuss now. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
I like the analogy, the coconut.
Coconut analogy. Good, good,
Yes.
good, 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 good.
Yeah.
So now you need to keep a coconut with you, and
Yeah.
always when you wake up in the morning, do some gadgad so that you know where is your goal. You need to become like that coconut.
Yeah. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for the wonderful class.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna,
So,
Prabhuji.
Hare
Thank
Krishna,
you.
thank you, Prabhu.
yes, Charumati Mataji. Yes. Any questions? Hare Krishna, Anuradha Mataji. Any questions? No questions. So that means either the class was fully understood or not understood at all.
So Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna,
Mataji.
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Okay.
Hare Krishna. Namaste.
Namaste ji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Jivan Prabhu. Thank you very much. Okay.
Hare Krishna.
See you in the next class.
Prabhuji,
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji,
Any-
can I do the Mangalacharan next
Oh,
week?
yes. Yeah. You
If
can
you
do the
permit, I will-
Mangalacharan. You can do the Mangalacharan. Maybe not next week. What we can do is we can request Rakesh ji to put your name in the rooster, in the list of devotees, because we take turns to do this. And if
Okay.
you like, you can also prepare the summary. You can hear the class and then prepare the summary. If you like, you can volunteer for that also. Yeah.
Yes, Mataji. Yes, Prabhuji, I will volunteer for the next summary.
For the summary also and for the Mangalacharan. So Rakesh ji, please note down Charumati Mataji's name, and whenever you get the opportunity, kindly allocate this service to Mataji.
I will
Okay,
queue up.
Prabhuji. Thank you.
I will queue up and wait. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mataji.
Prabhuji.
Thank you. Bye.
प्रभु जी आज वो श्लोका मेमोराइजेशन हुआ था क्या?
Yes, हुआ था. उसका रिकॉर्डिंग है जी.
Okay, I'll see that then.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.